Alrighty. Alrighty then. Alright. Looks like we are here and we are rolling. Cool. I'm gonna keep an eye on Discord to make sure that I know when people show up. And since I'm scooting over here, we're going to do this. Scooch. No. No. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alrighty then. I'm pretty sure that's a line from a Jim Carrey movie at some point.
Hello!
Hi there, Avery.
Hello, hello. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Today's going to be an abbreviated one because we'll have an event that we need to get to at the time that Squid School is normally starting. That was when the school we're running it for wanted the event to take place. So we are going to have to get things kicked off pretty quickly here.
Are we doing a league, or are we just going into the VOD review?
We'll do some League, but not a lot of League. Especially since it's these maps. Jeez, that's gross. But we should be able to bring in Ashik and SunshineMocha, who is the VOD reviewee today. So. Oh, well. Cat, you were supposed to... You were the chosen one, Cat. You were supposed to protect the screen, not hide behind it. Oopsie daisies. Nobody saw anything. Just gonna move all of my cats so that they're on top of the screen while we wait for our other players to arrive. We have many cats here. Alrighty. Hi, Brock. Good to see ya. Glad you can make it for this. Brock will definitely have some insight into what we're talking about today. If he's able to stick around for long enough. So I'm glad he's here. Okay. And we can get rid of all of that. So there's Ashik, and now we're just waiting for SunshineMocha. I did DM them that we are ready for them. So hopefully that won't take too much longer. Ashik, let me DM you the password real quick, because I presume you have not seen it. All right, there it is. Also, Ashik, if you're saying anything, we can't hear you. Just wanted to make sure, just in case. And if you've got your mic muted or something, that's fine. Today's your day off, so you'll be around. Awesome. Sully, if you have seen the Bravous esports videos, Brock is one of the players from the Top 500 video. So you would have at least heard of him from that. Yep, that's the one. I was just about to say. Yep.
Ashik is saying they're having the same issue that Rubber had the one stream a few Squid Schools back, so we might need to...
Let's just drop into waiting room.
Yeah, might be easier to do that.
Alright. Now Ashik is muted.
Yeah.
I need to work out how voice channel permission settings work on Discord, because I've been having this problem in a couple of places where the channel is set so that the role should be able to speak, and it's not. So there's something probably in the way I'm setting it up that's going wrong there.
Very strange.
Gotta mute notifications so we don't keep getting clicks. Alrighty. Just waiting on SunshineMocha here. I'm gonna DM them really quickly. If I'm done. Okay, so there was an if involved. We might. I'd like to wait until SunshineMocha is here to start the VOD review, because I know that they're going to be available for it. But we might not be able to count on them for a league, so what we could do here is pop out and go into a pairs lobby, or we could just grab somebody else. I know Ashik is going to be joining us, so if somebody else would like to, just let me know, and I can get you guys in.
Yeah.
As a k52 Trey guy, although I'm sure that based on the way that conversation goes, you'll be able to derive some pointers on how to play against it. But SunshineMocha was playing a k52 for the VOD review, and so that's what we're going to be talking about there.
Very cool.
Cool. Thanks for the follow, PTE. Clamblets. Ashik is not in the voice chat anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go and jump into a pairs lobby, Avery, and just play a round or two here.
Yeah, cool.
Just to get things going.
All right. Get the ball rolling.
Yeah, that is really good advice, Brock. As a general rule of thumb, if something is giving you trouble in any game, the best way to figure out how to beat it is to play it, because you'll learn from, you know, getting better at it and starting to figure out how it functions. You know, you'll learn when you don't feel comfortable going in for a fight, and then you can just kind of reverse engineer. Okay, why didn't that feel good? That didn't feel good because of X or Y weakness, and now you know that weakness and you can exploit that weakness. Yeah, sorry, Glowstick. I'd get you in here, but Ashik is all of a sudden missing, and we only have so long that we're going to be able to be playing this anyway before we really have to start the VOD review for time's sake. So figure we'll just get this going for now, and once Mocha is able to get here, then we'll be able to get this all going. Clamblets, Arowana, and Walleye. Yeah, it's the way I see it. We're kind of saving you guys from having to experience this. These are, in my opinion, the two worst maps in the game, both in one rotation. Okay, there's one, I think, here, correct? Maybe not. Okay. Never mind, I'm wrong, but I will be able to get a clam, and now we can start putting pressure on. One in front, got him. One at the top of the ramp up there. Ooh, they're pushing me on the left. Okay, got them, and that's another one down. And we're in. And the blaster missed their shot, so that's nice. Good job, Brush Friend. I don't know if that's actually Arashi, but if it is, we're in pretty good hands right now.
Oh.
open. Throw one, throw one. Oh, no. Now I'm just dead. Alrighty. Well, that was still a really good push anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I have my doubts that this is the real Arashi. I feel like they probably would have kept the basket open there, but hard to say.
Who knows?
Ah, I thought I got away with that. It was definitely not ideal. I knew where I was for too long.
Oh,
Good job, good job. That's a good trade for us to take. Start pushing up a little bit out of that. Oh boy. I missed way too many shots. They probably should have been able to react to that. Alright, only one more on my ouch. Oh.
Ow. They got me.
Well, hopefully our brush can get in and score.
Yeah.
Wahoo worse than Arowana. That's an interesting take. Oop. Well, shucks.
Oh no!
Oh. I should probably have died to that, but they didn't push it well enough.
Ow.
Not doing a great job of clearing the base here. I was too visible that whole fight. Needed to be a little sneakier.
Sneaky, sneaky, yeah.
Make sure that this is all clear. Okay. Well, that's scary. Try and help my team by teammate by giving them an escape route. Oh, I didn't realize there were two of them. Shoot, I thought I was hitting the clamp holder earlier. But we do have the basket open, and if I can get this power clam hopped in, I don't know if we have... I can't jump that in because we don't have anyone refreshing the clam basket. I would have gotten there and it would have closed before I landed.
That was too slow. Oh.
Okay, there's a blaster watching from mid. Oh boy, they're on me. Got him. Solo missile the one guy who's in the way. End up over here. Oh, they're just gonna drop on me. I think that's too far away. Shoot. Yeah. Oh no, and we jumped another one in. Oh shoot.
Aw.
I was just focusing on staying alive, but I probably could have gotten closer to the basket while that was going on. Oops. I didn't even mean to poke myself out there, but that was a good shot from them. They saw my ink coming down, and that's actually something I'm going to be talking about with Mocha is giving the opponent information you don't need to by shooting where they can see. We're just painting, we're just painting. Picking up clams too, because we're in the lead and we don't want them to get any. Oh, they're just jumping in somewhere.
Oh, just oh.
Well, that's probably game. We don't have a lot of follow-up. We might be able to stop this. We need to get them out of our base, though. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Dang it! Dang, I was so close.
The event tournament. The one that's coming after this? Yes. Well, shucks. He had 3 blasters on that team. It's kind of insane. Okay, and there's Sunshine Mocha. Perfect. Okay. So let's let me think. What do I want? we probably just want to start the VOD review at this point. It's a little bit earlier than we will usually do it in Squid School, but we want to make sure that we've got enough time, given that it's going to be a little bit abbreviated today. So I am going to switch screens over here, and we're going to get this all started. One of those. One of these. And hi there in chat, Mocha. Okay, and as usual, Avery, I will ask you to be my eyes in the chat.
Yes.
And this is way bigger than it should be.
I will be the voice of the people.
Perfect. All right. Huh, I wonder why that doesn't fit perfectly. That's strange. All right. So, hello, Mocha. Mocha is muted at the moment in chat, and they have no obligation to unmute or anything. But Mocha, feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. And also, we've got some fairly high-level help in chat here from Brock.com, among probably others, who can speak to what we're going to be talking about today, which is a lot of the way to approach fights. It's a lot of microgame stuff is what I'm interested in talking about here today. And Brock, you know, is very much an expert on that sort of thing. He coaches me on that a lot when we bring him in to talk to me. So he should be a good resource. He's someone that I would trust to teach me about these things. So anything that he says, you know, probably pure gold, and listen to what he's saying as well. But I will be giving my thoughts here, and I can't really see his thoughts unless they are brought up by somebody else. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to get this started. Mocha is playing... Oh, this is the wrong side of that. There we go.
You want to stream it on Discord as well? So
that is a thing I will need to do, and that is a thing that I always forget to do. So I appreciate you bringing it up. All right, there it is. So we got a Rainmaker match on Wahoo. So this is Mocha's team. We've got Mocha on the k52. I wonder if this is the brand I'm thinking it is from... I'm blanking on the name of the team. It's an old team that doesn't actually exist anymore, but they've effectively been together for a long time, and just in slightly different team names. They've rebranded a bunch. Anyway. And then on the other team, they've got a really short-range comp and a couple of Luna Blasters. So this is a really weird comp, and it's kind of detrimental that they have it. Because your weapon counters every single one of these in one way or another. You're longer range than both of these shooters, which means that they won't be too much of an issue unless they can manage to sneak up on you, which isn't the easiest thing for them to do. The Luna Blasters have the same issue, although the thing that usually counters that for the Luna Blaster is that they actually have a faster splat time than the 52 does. Yours is pretty comparable in terms of like frame data to the Splatter Shot and the Neo Splash. It might be a few frames off, but it's definitely a very consistent splat, and even if you get it short range with them, you know, it's still a 50-50 basically between the two of you who comes out and wins that. With the Luna Blasters, if they're up close to you, they should win. But the thing is, they don't have the means to get close to you. They need someone to paint for them. And the 52, one of the big buffs that it got that made it super viable is that it paints pretty significantly well. It's not like a Neo Splash in terms of paint, but it's still very, very good, and the long range helps it out a lot as well with its amount of paint. So with any of these weapons, as long as you stay at your max range, they literally can't do anything to stop you. And so you can work your way in very deliberately. You can put a wall down, paint up all of the area in front of you, and then move up into that area a little bit, put another wall and paint it up, do whatever you've got to do. and you should theoretically be able to just keep these guys at arm's length. You can be like that bully that puts his hand on top of the kid's head, and the kid's swinging at him, but he can't reach because he's shorter. That's kind of what the k52 gets to do with a team consisting of these weapons. It's also super nice that you have a couple of specials that are going to be good for stopping the Rainmaker. You've got, in particular, this Stingray. Your Booyah isn't bad for it either, because you can just wall off a choke point really hard. So I feel like your comp is probably better and should win against these guys. So let's talk about the way that we're playing fights individually, such that we don't end up in that position. So, first of all, on the rollout here, you decide to go for the aggressive kind of flank route through carousel here. I like that you're not painting too much of the carousel, because that's something that does show up on a map, but if someone's watching, they probably will still see this and will still know that this is happening. So this is a really risky play. It can absolutely pay off, and it's good to have pressure on this side of the map. But also, something to keep in mind is that this is Rainmaker. Typically, the right play in Rainmaker is to go for the Rainmaker pop. There's maybe like one map in the game where getting that pop isn't as valuable, because there's just not as much of the area in mid that you need to control. But in Wahoo, I would say that that is absolutely the case. You want to be going for pop here, unless you know you can't get it. So, for example, if they had, like, two splooshes that both have Object Shredder, okay, you're not getting the pop. There's no way. Even if every single member of your team gets to the Rainmaker shield first and starts painting it, as soon as those splooshes are in place, you're not winning pop ever. But in this situation, you have 3 shooters to their 2, and 2 of their weapons are blasters, which just do not paint a lot at all and also have to be way too close to the shield. So you guys can definitely win this pop, and so you definitely should be going for it. So instead of going left like this, I would be going right and trying to contest that pop so that you have control of mid. Wahoo World is a map where it's really, really difficult to get through mid. There are only a couple ways that you can do it. You can go through mid itself, which is a very small proportion of paintable area. To get there, you have to like walk up over a whole bunch of glass that's not paintable. So those areas are really vulnerable, and you can only really cross those when they're clear. You have
Brock
mid,
is,
which is
Brock is saying that actually I think painting bottom left is useful, because you'll attract their attention immediately, and they'll have to guess where the paint. Oh, sorry, it's hard to read, but in the chat, be shaking when in reality you just paint and just
sharking.
Sorry.
So he's saying that instead of not painting that and trying to be stealthy with it, if you paint it, they'll have to like wonder, is somebody there or aren't they? You're actually giving that information on purpose, and you're playing the 50-50 with them of whether they actually acknowledge that it's there. There is also something to be said for, you know, if you think your opponents aren't checking the map at all, it might not matter one way or the other. And at this level, I don't know, maybe that's something that they're not paying as much attention to. Well, hard to say. Because it does seem like when you pop out from here, which will happen in a few seconds, you do catch a lot of them by surprise. Like they're not actually realizing that you're there. But in any case, going back to the discussion of how this map works, it's really hard to get through mid because going up over the top is really unsafe. You have to go over glass to get into mid, and then when you're in mid, you're pretty visible from various directions. And then going through the carousel is the only other way, which is a big choke point and you're not at height advantage. It's especially bad with something like tower control, where you can spend, you know, entire matches where they never get past first checkpoint because it's just so hard to push through mid. In Rainmaker, since the game is a little more fluid, since the objective moves a little faster, I don't think it's as big of an issue. And I'm actually a lot more of a fan of this map for Rainmaker than I think I am for most modes. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is, if you pop and get paint control of mid, then that makes it that much more difficult for your opponents to get in there and actually secure the Rainmaker. But getting the pop, to be fair, to your strategy here, getting the pop doesn't necessarily guarantee you'll actually be able to pick the Rainmaker up and move. You still need picks. And so, at least at that point in time, that is when I would definitely be looking for, some kind of flank, some kind of way to catch the opponents off guard and see if we can get some picks. Now, I think with your weapon, as opposed to playing like the sharking playstyle where you try and jump up from around a corner and surprise them, I think you since you have so much range, you can kind of just brute force your way in. You can just kind of walk forward at them, and as long as you know that there's no flank route they can take, as long as they can't surprise you, as long as they can't shark you, they can't really stop you from just sort of walking forward super easily. You just put out a wall in front of you and walk at them, and they have to back up or commit to taking a fight or something. So hiding might, like, what I would probably do if I were in this position right now is I would probably paint to my left and then back up a little bit. I'd obviously check the map really quickly to see that there's nobody above me. But I happen to know just from watching this that there isn't anybody above us right now. And so I would want to, I see that, there's a splatter shot that's in range right now. I don't need to take the fight while they're in range. I can just sort of like give myself enough room from the way that I get out from behind the pillar that they're out of range and keep backing up and kiting them. At this point, since you've shown yourself now and they're in range, now you probably don't have time to back up. Now if they hit their shots, you're down before you get out of range. So at this point, you've put yourself in a 1v1 where you kind of just need to out-aim them. Not exactly out-aim them because you only need to hit 2 shots. They needed 3, but it's a 1v1. You've put yourself in a position where you just need to get a faster splat time than they have. Now, you do a...
Brock also, in the chat there, Brock was also saying, I think this was for a little bit before talking about the locations, but definitely depending on the skill level of the players you're fighting, what I said works well on higher level players, but staying there and sharking is a lot better against lower level players. I think that was referring to earlier.
Yeah, sitting behind cover over there. Yeah, I know what they're talking about there. All right, so we move out here, and we're in range of the splatter shot. And again, anytime you see an opponent based on their weapons, you can just hold ZR and back up. And as long as they aren't hitting you already, that's a way that you can just win that fight. You can just kite them back. You really don't have to try to outmaneuver them. You don't have to be like dodging back and forth. You can just shoot them from a position where they can't shoot you. And you either force them to back up or they run into you and you're hitting them first. So at this point, now that you've engaged while you're in their range, I do like that you are doing a little bit of a swim strafe. You throw their aim off. You can see their next couple shots are way off to the right over here. So that's good. And as soon as they get their aim on, you're starting to move again. Now, if, this splatter shot is aiming better, right now, when this engagement happens, when you pop out from behind this wall, you both see each other at the same time because the cover is being removed from the same place. But you're looking over here. You can see from this line of ink, you're looking in this direction, and their aim is actually closer to you right now. So in theory, if both of these players are playing at, tool-assisted speedrun levels, if they're just very, very good at the game and they never miss, the splatter shot should probably win at this point because they've got enough of a time advantage for adjusting their aim that they should just be able to win this. So this isn't a fight that you want to end up in this kind of situation. You win it, which is great. They're missing a lot of shots. They're doing a lot of like aim waving. Let me show you what I mean in game really quick. I need to switch scenes for a second, but okay, map mode's changed. So it'll take just a second, but then I'll be able to get into the training room. So what they're doing is they're overcorrecting when their opponent changes direction. So like they're seeing this guy and they're doing this sort of thing around them. They're going forward and back and just kind of like missing on either side. So that's suboptimal. What you always want to be able to do, and what higher level players will be able to do at a certain point, is they snap to it and then they just keep their reticle there. One way you can practice this is just doing this in the training room. Like, make sure that your reticle never leaves the target. And you don't want it exactly on. Like, it's possible for me to have, like, the X, but to be missing because the target is moving past those shots. There's travel time on those shots. So you want to be aiming a little bit ahead of them. But this is still generally a really good drill for getting control of your aim. Something that's shown off in some of the how to get out of ranked videos is an aim drill that Brian does where he starts with his reticle off the target and then moves it to the target and takes his charger shot. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different with this weapon because that's just not how this weapon fires, or any other shooter. But starting off and then getting to it is a really good drill to do here. So your goal with aim drills in this section where the targets aren't moving is to get your reticle exactly where you want it as quickly as possible. Doing this so that you're not getting these sorts of like overcorrections where you swing past it and have to come back to it. And you're like kind of going back and forth around it. Because this player aims like that, they miss a lot more shots. And you're able to get them down. But that's definitely not a guarantee from the way that this fight is initiated. So you get one
also,
here.
Says that the other player's main mistake besides their aim is the fact that they are firing like a turret, standing still instead of repositioning to have a better grasp of the situation. The enemy player, the terrain you can use around you. And they also continue into saying it's a lot easier to track when you are better positioned and can see more around you. You can combine these tricks / aim drills with movement to win a lot more fights.
What he's talking about with turret mode is something that I've addressed in the videos that I call walk and shoot syndrome. He's just kind of standing there holding down the fire button, whereas you disengage a little bit. You swim strafe once, and that throws his aim off, and that's part of why he misses all of these shots. So, compliments to you for taking that fight and executing it better. Then there's this other player who it's hard to see them. I'm trying to figure out where they come. Okay, they drop down here, and they're not shooting yet. They pop up, and they also just kind of turret aim. They're not in a good position to be taking that fight in the first place, so the fact that they're even... I guess they're the Luna Blaster, so they're trying to swim close to you to get a shot off, but they should already be opening fire by the time they're in the same position that this guy is. So, you win this fight basically because your opponent's mispositioned, not necessarily because it was the best fight for you to be taking. But also, I mean, you're playing the k52. It's a very consistent weapon for taking fights. Even if you get in a bad spot, you have a 2-shot weapon that fires relatively quickly. So sometimes you can just kind of be like, I think I can win this. That will happen less and less, obviously, as time goes on, as you run into players who are more technically capable. And it's, in X rank, you can never count on your opponents to misplay, because you never know if you're going to be playing against, if that individual player is going to be, lower than your level, or if they're going to be top 500. You just run into the whole gamut of them in there. So you end up getting 2 picks, and as with any 1v3, you don't come out unscathed. You should never expect to be able to win those. Even if you do catch the first couple by surprise, you're going to get picked off eventually. You do, but it's enough that you're going to be able to create an advantage for your team. Your team has a Stingray out, and maybe they can catch that one player They don't end up doing that, but, you know, you get a little bit of damage on them. It can happen sometimes. And that player's forced way back. Your team pops missiles, so they know where everybody is. They should be grabbing the Rainmaker and starting to try and make a little bit of a push get going here. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening. Your Stingray user is picking it up. That's perfect. That's exactly who I want to see picking it up. They used their special, and then this is not a great weapon for pushing in. It's a good position maybe if they're able to get maybe the top left here and the push dies, maybe they're going to be good for stalling it right here. But, like, as a general rule, and this is a rule of thumb, this is not a hard and fast rule, but you should expect that your backliners are going to be good for holding the enemy team back rather than pushing into the enemy team. If you want to push into the enemy team, you want short-range weapons. If you want to hold the enemy team away, if you want to, like, have them zone the other team out and prevent them from entering an area, then you want a backliner. And this is why, generally, you know, again, very rough rule of thumb type stuff here, but generally a frontline comp is going to be better at pushing and worse at defending than a comp that has heavy long range. So I like that we've got our backliner grabbing the Rainmaker, because right now you guys need to push rather than needing to defend. And so a backline weapon, you know, you're not trading in a short range weapon for this longer range weapon that is the Rainmaker, that is also slower. I think that's the right person to be grabbing it. The only other person I would say is maybe the K-Shot, because they're more of a supportive role here, and these two weapons are going to be a little bit more efficient at slaying. So that would probably be my second choice, but glad that they're picking it up. And now what I want to see you doing, because what a Rainmaker needs is for someone to go in front of it and not just paint the way. Like, everyone thinks, oh yeah, you need to paint for Rainmaker. You need to push the enemies out of the way of the Rainmaker is what you really need to do. Because paint, it can paint for itself fairly quickly. You might get a few more points if you paint for it. And it might secure a KO in some situations when you wouldn't have it, but that's rather situational. The real problem is that this Rainmaker can only fire one shot every, like, second and a half. And if that one shot doesn't land, then it loses a fight against someone who's rushing it. So it needs you in front of it so that they have to deal with 52. And at that point, if it fires a shot that controls a whole bunch of space, now you have an easier fight and you can take that person out, and then it can move forward. So I want to see you, especially as someone who has a wall, especially as a weapon that slays this efficiently, I want you to be out there in front of the Rainmaker, protecting it from whoever's in front of it, whoever is in the way of it moving. You being over here doesn't really matter unless there's someone in court that's trying to flank the Rainmaker. That's the only thing you're really protecting it from in this situation. And even then, if they're flanking the Rainmaker already, they might get to it and trade, and you don't want that trade. So I would worry less about this area of the map in this mode. You end up being able to get it because the Rainmaker displaces someone into you, so that's awesome. If you'd been in front of it, you probably still could have taken this fight just fine, because you have a range advantage and a height advantage over them. So even if they see you coming, you probably still win that anyway. But good, now you're getting in front of the Rainmaker. You're setting up this wall. It's a little bit scary to set up that wall when you plan on pushing past it, because if there is someone here and they see the wall go up, they could do something like throw a lethal bomb at the wall as soon as you start to cross it up. So it's a little bit worrisome, but they end up not, you know, taking advantage of that. They have other worries, and you're able to get up front and get another pick, and that's awesome because that'll let the Rainmaker push up just that little bit more. Now let's see. I want to see how this player engages here. Okay, so they just, they're very opportunistic here. They see the fight developing and they drop in and they take you out. And that's really good on their part. If your K-Shot is here with you, then they can probably trade this back and you push in for a near KO. So it's unfortunate that I don't know where your K-Shot is here. Okay, they're in court still, which is not a helpful place for them to be at this point in time. They either need to be pushing up steps with you at the same time that you're pushing here, or they need to be with you. So I would put that more on them for not recognizing the situation that your team is in, rather than you for taking a bad fight. Because your K-Shot is up. Oh no, they're not up. They're actually still jumping in. Okay, never mind. So it is just you here. So it's you versus like two of them. This might actually be a situation where you might want to stall a little bit. Like if you put up a wall in this position right here, then maybe you're actually able to hold them off long enough for your teammates to get in, and maybe that K-shot can come in and help you then. So yeah, that's my fault for not noticing that your teammate was down there. So now it's just the Rainmaker mostly alone.
Brock says that you could probably play that slower until your teammate comes back, and they continue with once they were there, you'd have your booyah and could have used that to set up the rest of your team to come in.
Right. Yeah, if your K-shot is here, then yeah, just push it because you have the numbers advantage. You know, push that advantage. Maybe use the booyah to initiate the fight and then go in. That would be a good idea. But knowing now that this player's out of the picture, yeah, you probably could have just put up a wall and waited. Because the Rainmaker has 41 seconds, right? And they've been doing just fine where they are, even without you in front of them. So you have some time to kill here. You don't need to necessarily go in for the kill right this second, because you getting a knockout off of this fight depends upon your you winning a 1v2, basically, because the Rainmaker's not going to be in position to help you with this yet. So your teammate is starting to go in here, and now they're in a 2v1 because they're not waiting for their teammates. It's a little bit of a mini stagger here, really. Rainmaker's trying to make something happen, and they do actually succeed in getting that pick, but I think they go down to this bomb. Yes. So now here, there's a bomb that's been thrown behind you, right? And your shots are missing. You're actually trailing behind this player. At this point, after these shots miss, what I want to see you doing is you swimming in such a way that makes it harder for this player behind you to hit you. Because you might just get directed in the back of the head with a Luna Blaster if you stand still here and get your aim on in time. That should have happened just now. They just missed you. But I think you died to the bomb anyway. Okay, you died to the second shot. Same difference. As soon as you see that bomb, you know, you look at the trajectory of that bomb. That came basically down this way and ended up in front of you. That's being thrown from pretty close behind you. So that means that somebody has closed in on you from this side. And maybe at this point, you know, the best that you can get is a trade on this guy. But you buy yourself more time to get that trade if you swim straight forward a little bit right now. And if you had swim straight forward and then gotten that pick, you know, you probably still would have gotten the splashdown cancel because you were right in front of him at that point. And so you could have gotten your aim on and gotten that. If you're right here right now, instead of standing where you are, yes, this indirect hits you, but you might be able to paint your feet and swim forward fast enough that the second shot doesn't, and you actually survive this. So it's theoretically possible that you get out of there if you swim strafe as soon as you see that someone's behind you there. All right, so we've got the push stalled out here. We've got someone rushing in front, and they've actually managed to get a pick. So here I'm thinking we've got some successful aggression. Oh, it's a trade, though, that we just noticed. Okay. So this play right here, a lower level player might just drop down and then immediately come around this wall, but think about how they dropped, right? They dropped behind the wall. They could have dropped over here and had a shorter line to get to court, but they dropped behind the wall. They intentionally chose to take cover. So you could just like pre-fire the spot that they have to swim out from, but if they're going to come out from around the corner, it's going to be in squid form, and right now you're aiming at the back wall instead of aiming at the ground at them. You might just shoot over their heads if they swim around, and that's exactly what happens. So you want to either be aiming at the ground in front of them or just waiting for them to show themselves and like sharking here and expecting them to come out without having seen you. Let's take a look at... So they might have seen that shot that you used to position yourself here, but you are playing stealthily. So the play here might be to not shoot yet and to wait for them to come around and then start firing, because even if they, you know you're here and try to shoot you as soon as they get around the corner, you have right side peek advantage on them. So you're going to be able to hit them first. And also, they have to expose themselves a lot before they can get around here and hit you. It's awkward for them to shoot at. So if you think you're still hidden, I'd stay stealthed. And maybe, you know, if you don't see them after a second, you can assume that they've moved up to this side and you can come around the corner and right side peek them from there too. So the reason I don't like this is that if, for one thing, even if your shots are perfectly on and you're expecting them to just walk around the corner and walk into these shots, which, like we said, they don't do, but even if they were to do that, you're announcing that you're here before they get there. You only want to do that if you know they're about to move into your shots. And like that's what pre-firing is. It's you're shooting that spot ahead of time because you expect that they're going to be there. And, you know, cover plays into how pre-firing works. Like, if you pre-fire from behind cover and then they come around that corner, it could be kind of blind to them. They might not see it in time. But pre-firing this early is reactable. They can see, oh shoot, there are shots there, I'm going to back up. Or they can see, oh, there are shots here, but I can swim under them and shoot them from this angle. And so this player had a couple of ways that they probably could have gotten out of this fight without getting splatted.
Brock is saying in the chat that as a 52 player, you should be resetting your RNG, but repositioning and waiting a bit. By repositioning and waiting a bit before firing again. The first two shots have less RNG, so abusing that as much as possible is important for landing more shots. You can also mitigate more RNG by getting in their face. You're going to win more fights if you start a fight and mitigate the RNG as much as possible.
Just to illustrate what Brock is saying, RNG, random number generation, that refers to any element of randomness in a game. And when we talk about shot RNG, what we mean is every shot that I fire, it's going to end up somewhere within those four corners that you can see around my circular reticle here. But we don't know exactly where they're going to end up. If I just sit still here and hold down the ZR button, you can see the shots are jumping around a little bit. They're within those four corners, but we don't know exactly where they're going to be. And where they end up is random, and it's decided by random number generation. Now, the first couple shots from a weapon are going to be significantly more accurate. And that's useful to know. You can see here, they're not shifting at all from the circle because I'm pausing in between shots. The longer that I keep shooting, the more it starts jumping around. And that's a rule with every weapon in the game, basically. Every shooter, anyway. Other weapons definitely work differently, like chargers, for example. But so if I just stand here and keep firing like this, you'll once it respawns, you'll see that some of my shots are actually missing just because of shot RNG. Whereas if I take 3 fresh shots from about the same position, they're a lot less likely to miss. So I'm much more consistently, when I stop to aim, getting my nice 3 shots here than I was if I was just randomly firing like this. You can see a couple of those are missing in that last issue there. So with the 52 in particular, the 52 has particularly horrendous aim RNG when it starts getting off. So we'll aim at the wall here, and we'll see that it is jumping all over the place if I'm continuing to fire here. So sometimes you will just aim at something really well, and you can see 2 shots missed before those ones actually hit. Whereas if I wait for a second, pop, pop. Okay, it wasn't pop, pop there. Sometimes it is just missing anyway. But it's better if you wait a second in between each one. It's more consistent. So that's what we're referring to.
Makes jumping with blasters really bad.
Right. And there's a really good example of that in the how to get out of ranked videos, where I jump with a range blaster and show just how horrendous it is. So this is what the shot looks like normally. And then I'm aiming at exactly the same spot. I'm going to jump. You can see, like, one was over here, one was over here, one was up there. And that's all with me just, like, not changing how I'm aiming the controller at all. So, yeah, it's really bad with certain weapons. And the 52 happens to be one of those weapons where it plays an especially big role, especially with the relatively lower fire rate. Okay. So, let's... I think there was a time zone blip there. I might have accidentally put the wrong start time now that I'm looking at it, because it's only coming up on 2:30 here, my time, and I thought it was supposed to be 3:30 at this point. But, all right. That means we've got actually a little bit more time, which is nice. Okay. Let's get back into it. So, back to this situation. You can see we're firing at this wall for multiple shots before they actually get around the corner. And these shots where you're adjusting your aim on reaction, those are relatively hard to hit when you've gotten your aim centered that way. On top of that, you don't have a lot of time to react to their positioning. Something that you might want to do if you're going to shark here is turn your camera a little bit so that you can see around the corner better. And like from this angle where you're firing right now, you only see this player once they get to here. Which, you know, if we go back a few seconds, it's like once the player is in this position right here that you're actually able to see them from that angle. Whereas if we just shark here a little bit and tilt the camera a little bit, I guess we could say like counterclockwise, then you're a lot more likely to see them coming and be able to react quickly. So they kind of just walk out into your shots. They don't react to them very quickly. You've definitely fired multiple shots against this back wall. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something shots that you've made. That is within human reaction time if they're looking for it. And if they have the reaction trained to, there are shots here, I need to back up. So they don't need to be walking into this. And if they are walking into this, they should know that you're there already. So this is maybe a little bit of a mechanical misplay on your opponent's part. So from here, you see like the cross on your crosshairs, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm in range to hit this guy. But then they start swimming away, and you definitely fire a number of shots before you recognize, okay, they're not in range anymore. Now, this is probably a Luna Blaster that you're aiming at. I didn't see as they painted away what weapon they were. Okay, yeah, this is a blaster for sure. So the issue now is they're out of your range, and you also can't see them. For all you know, they could be sharking right at the edge of this ledge as you approach it, ready to just, like, direct you right away. So at this point, they actually have a positional advantage over you, and you probably shouldn't force it. I do like that you shark on the very low end of this wall to be able to see over the top. If they moved quickly, they might be able to see you approaching over the ledge, but I think they're more concerned, so this isn't a bad play, I don't think. Now, if they do try to rush you, your best escape route is going to be back through Carousel, and that's not painted right now, so I like that you just kind of abandon ship and paint your way out of this. And they probably haven't seen you doing this unless they happened to check the map in the last half a second or so and saw that that trail got painted underneath. So this is not a bad play. What I don't like about this play, though, is that when you pop over the ledge, you start firing. This shot right here goes over the ledge. Somebody who's aware, somebody who has, like, a good kind of... they're collecting a lot of information. They're going to see that shot, and they're going to know basically exactly where you are. So if the Luna Blaster did see that shot, you're in a lot of trouble because they could just shark under this ledge and shoot you as soon as you come over here. That's classic, like, roller and brush stuff. A lot of the time, a roller or a brush will run behind a wall, and because they're being chased by someone who has longer range than they do, and they're kind of losing the fight. And that player will, you know, bloodlust after them. They'll be like, oh, they're weak. I gotta get him. and they'll charge around that corner. And what they haven't realized is that when they painted their way around the corner, the other player was able to see, based on a knowledge of that weapon's range, exactly where that player is. And so they can just time the shot so that as soon as the other player gets around the corner, they're already swinging the roller. They're already mashing ZR on the brush. And the player gets deleted around the blind corner. That's the sort of trap that the Luna Blaster could be setting up for you if you decide to push this any further. And in fact, they do, and they just royally mess it up and miss you by a mile. They really should get this pick, and they actually end up doing it with the help of the teammate who aimed a little bit better there. But, like, you probably shouldn't have even had a chance to fire shots. They probably should have just, like, directed you immediately and picked you from there. Okay, so now you've got 2 down. Your 2 teammates are a little bit separated from each other right now. So I like that you're holding off on jumping in. Your teammates are kind of backing up. Jumping into them might give them away. So swimming in, probably the right call here. Unfortunately, your teammate gets picked, and we just saw 2 burst bombs thrown at them. Neither of the other team has a burst rush, so this has to be just the Neo Splash. Well, no, actually, no, that's a vanilla splatter shot, isn't it? So actually it could be either of these 2. Or it could be both of them. It could be one throwing one burst bomb and then another throwing their burst bomb. So we know that they're somewhere in this vicinity. We also... The thing that caught my eye is... I'm going to back up. I think... Yeah. There's a player right here that is on your screen for a pretty significant amount of time. And the very first time I watched this, I saw that player was there, and I was like, this wall, probably not stopping that player. And it's probably not stopping these guys if they try and come in from the right. The wall might not actually be helping. In fact, it looks like this player actually is able to get a bomb around your wall a little bit there. It looks like they throw it at the side, the edge here. So as you approach in here, I think part of it is just, if you see a flicker of blue in your peripheral vision, that's something that you need to be like responding to a little bit quicker. It looks like you just kind of miss it on your way in. But another thing is that this wall, like, if you're going to throw a wall, I would say either completely close off the left side or completely close off the right side, right? Like, make it so that anyone on one side of you just can't shoot you, and that way you can focus exclusively on the other side. You're shooting one way, you're shielded on another. That's probably the ideal way to go about it. With the wall being in the middle, kind of between these 2 locations that people might push you from, I could see you just kind of getting pincered around this and it not actually helping you that much. And that's actually what happens. You get threatened from the left and then you get threatened from the right, and you're forced to back up instead of being able to hold your ground and just focus on a 1v1 against this player here who loses the 1v1 against the 52 gal. So good job recognizing you were in a tough spot and backing up. That's always a, when you have that kind of awareness that, okay, this is not safe, I need to back up, that's going to save you, even if you do put yourself in a position that's not great for you. Now, from here, with the explosion, remember, your weapon is longer range than all of theirs. So you can kind of stay at arm's length and just paint at the edge of their range, because the thing about explosions in this game is that they are kind of like very temporary smoke screens. You don't know for a split second whether this player is rushing you or backing away. The same kind of thing happens with splashdowns in a better... there's a larger radius around it, so there's more of that effect. So you're not really sure yet whether this player is rushing you or not for a split second, and so I would be backed up so that the very max range that I have is shooting right at the edge of the blue paint to hopefully pre-fire them. When you move in, you give them the opportunity to get too close to you. I would say from here... You throw that wall, and I guess you're expecting them to back up into mid, but you don't know that they're going to do that for sure, especially with aggressive weapons. Again, I would try to keep my max range trained on the edge of the blue ink here, just in case. and make sure that this is all cleared before I start moving back up to mid. That way I can be sure. Because you end up closing distance against a weapon that needs a close distance on you. You did some of that work for them, and so they were able to get in and get this pick. And it doesn't help either that you ran out of ink at this point. So you've already thrown one wall. You've already shot a bunch of shots. You're farming up a little bit more ink there. You're at about half tank. And then, yeah, you can see as your ink is refilling that you just barely have enough for that wall. So you shouldn't have enough, you shouldn't expect to have enough shots to take this engagement at this point. Whenever you throw a sub, make sure you're keeping tabs on, like, how much ink did that actually take out of the tank. Like, that's something that my eyes actually flash to for a split second when I throw a bomb, so that I realize, oh shoot, that's my entire ink tank gone. I probably can't take this fight. Because at that point, as soon as I see that it took that much ink, I'm backing away from this fight and letting my teammate deal with it. I've already put out a wall for them, so they still have an advantage here. But this way, it's a lot less likely that there's a trade back. Unfortunately, he does get your teammate too. So with that fight being lost there, the Ray is a little premature, I would probably say, because they haven't picked up the Rainmaker yet. They're just trying to do this, I guess, to help with the fight. It can be an initiation tool, so I don't necessarily disagree with it. I changed my mind on that. Stingrays can be really helpful offensively for starting pushes, for giving you chip damage that you can win fights off. And so that's probably what they're aiming to do here. Unfortunately, they don't catch the Luna Blaster that you actually do take a fight with. And the Luna Blaster's going up to harass them. So they've got 2 players out of the equation. They've got this other player to... Did they drop down to try and take out the Luna Blaster? Ooh. That's not a great play from them, because the Rainmaker is already going this way, and they should be able to see that, especially from their vantage point as a backliner. So now it's just your one teammate who's in between you and the Rainmaker and the goal, and they're able to get lead off that. So from here, you've got a couple options for how to approach this push. I like the one you take because you have this cover that you can duck behind to the right if you need to, whereas if you were up top or coming out... well, if you were up top, you would be exposed. If you were coming out of the right, you could right side peek it, but they could also move past you to the left. So this is a pretty good way to take this. And what I'm doing here, if I see that the Rainmaker is pushing up by themselves, is I don't bother with putting up a wall because they have a really slow time to shoot, and they're probably more focused on just trying to rush forward. So from here, to try and do damage control, since there's none of the opposing teammates that are pushing up with it, since it's completely unprotected, I don't throw this wall. I just pre-fire the Rainmaker so that I save a few points by splatting it a little bit quicker. I think if you pre-fire it there, you paint its feet, so it can't push past the 26 that it got to by the time you were in range. So you might have been able to save yourself about 5 points if you had started shooting just a little bit earlier there.
Brock is saying when using the wall as a weapon that can benefit from right side peeking, you should try and place walls more so to your left. That way you can block your left side while also having the peeking advantage on your right if they try to push around your wall.
Yeah, that's good thinking. I didn't think about it because you can shoot through your splash wall, but of course they can't shoot through your splash wall, and they have to still peek around it in the same way they would around cover that's there in the environment. So that's a good tip from someone who actually plays the weapon. I don't use splash walls. All right. So don't hate the decision to drop this down, because there's still, I think, one player who is unknown to you. Maybe not, because I think that... Yeah, okay, so I think that splatter shot is respawning. No, they're not. Hold on, let's see. So both Luna's down. Yeah, we don't actually know where that splatter shot... Oh, no, they're over there. They're behind the Rainmaker shield. And they trade there. Okay, so you got everybody out. You could potentially have just let it reset and tried to paint up. I'm not a huge fan of pushing out here because, yes, it's going to get it a little bit out of your base. Check, check. Okay, I should be back.
Check.
Yep, you can hear me. Yes.
I can hear you. Yeah.
And are we still visible on stream is the other question.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, folks. Soundboard crashed, and that knocks out a number of different things. But we should be back. So, talking about this decision, because I believe it is pop that you get, and that gives you special here. Yeah. So you've got a special. Everybody on the other team is down and respawning. So what I would do here, instead of picking it up to get it out, is I would paint up in front of it so that they can't safely approach it. And then it's going to reset to mid, which will get it to a much safer position without you sacrificing yourself to get it there. Because another thing that might happen is if you go down on the carousel, it could just rotate all the way back around and be in your court instead of being in mid, which is harder for them to push through with it. So you picking it up here gets rid of a special your team could have used and also keeps your team staggered a little bit because you're almost certain to either go down or have to wait anyway. Yeah, and another thing about this is that your teammate, I imagine here, is thinking, okay, we've got the Rainmaker, it's time to push, we've got to push. And they do not have a map that's painted well enough for them to start going in and pushing. They don't have enough teammates to go in to push with. So even if you don't go down here, I feel like that teammate kind of got baited a little bit into going in and trying to help you push when the map wasn't really prepared for that yet. Okay, so you've got two players that are underneath the carousel here. You're one down. You've got another teammate. Actually, you're two down now. So this is your only teammate. They're looking this way. If there's anybody sharking around mid, this could be threatening. And it looks like you actually do, for a split second, see a blaster shot there on the right side of your screen. I missed that myself, but that's something that, you know, if you'd seen that, that would have helped. Ooh. So, jumping with the Rainmaker, if you jump with the Rainmaker, you know, or with any weapon, you're on a set trajectory. There's only so much you can do to change directions. You're much more mobile when you're on the ground. And so, here, not only do you jump, but you jump off a block here, which means you're in the air for even longer. A well-timed splat bomb can make it completely impossible for you to survive in that sort of situation. So you're lucky that that bomb doesn't get you, and this is a really good job that you do here backing up to survive, but it's a little too late. They're already kind of on top of you there. Okay, so they're 3 down. You're 2 down, and you've got someone coming this way. So of course, you know, you don't have a bomb to punish this with. You know, with a weapon that does have a lethal bomb, you can just drop one on this arrow and forget about it, and you'll get the pick. But I like that you're setting up on it. I like that you're putting this wall here so that you can't get pushed by someone who wants to save their teammate. Now, what I'm less of a fan of is that you don't have your aim on by the time they're landing, right? And you're also continuing to fire. Remember what Brock said about aim RNG. The longer you fire, the worse your RNG is going to get. So not only are you making it so that your weapon's accuracy is lower by the time they do land, you're also, you know, it's taking you, you're a little bit shaky even by the time they get here. Take the time, once you've got this wall up, to just get your cursor lined up and not moving on the target where it needs to be. Because, like, it's off right now, and then you're still wiggling a little bit by the time they land. You want to just have it locked and ready to go so that it is only shooting that arrow by the time that this player lands. Otherwise, they could potentially get away. And they end up not getting away. You're able to push it and get them, but higher level players might be able to make that work and survive.
Quick question from Call Me Cole. They're wondering, as a Rainmaker carrier, when should you be playing it safe or just running and gunning for more points?
So you should always run for more points when you can, as long as I should clarify, you should always run for lead when you can. As soon as you have an opportunity to get lead, you need to be on that instantly. The issue is that if you just go in solo by yourself, a team that knows halfway how to play defense should be able to cut you off before you get to lead. They should be forming kind of a nice, nasty semicircle that you have to push into, and be shooting you from multiple different directions before you ever get anywhere close to lead if they're set up well. So what you need is you need to know where the enemy team is, at least the ones that are close enough to be relevant to the push. And you need to have a path that will take you to lead without one of them getting in the way. Usually that means that you have teammates in front of you and you have a significant amount of paint around you. Because if you don't have paint, there could be sharkers. If you don't have teammates, you have no support as soon as anybody catches up with you, and your weapon is slower than every other weapon in the game. Literally, a Hydra is faster than the Rainmaker. So if someone is chasing you, they're going to catch you. You really need your teammates in there displacing them so that you can circumnavigate them or just kind of go through them because they've been splatted. So a lot of the time, at lower levels, players will not know how to play defense. And so you will get away with pushes where all of the enemy team is up, but they're not looking at you, and you just kind of paint your way into the enemy base and get a lead. At X rank, that should never happen. And if it does happen, man, that is frustrating. At X rank level, they should be using a lot of lethal bombs, and they should be putting those in the way of the Rainmaker to stop it from moving forward, even if they're, in a 1v4. Because a suction bomb doesn't care about your numbers advantage. They should be always keeping at least someone in between the Rainmaker and the goal. So they should never be pushing out to a point where the enemy team's Rainmaker can just circumnavigate them. They should have the map awareness that they're never letting that happen. And so with, those two principles at play, you need your teammates pushing them out of your way. So the place that you go for extra points is when you're close. You maybe have painted right up until that point, and you can kind of just squid flop your way the extra couple of points to get there. Or if you have a teammate that's with you right in front of you that is painting your path, you can kind of ignore the enemy team a little bit and just swim with that player under some circumstances. Like, you see a really, really strong Rainmaker team, sometimes what they can do is just have, like, it's almost like curling. It's like you have the two people with the brush that are just sweeping the path for the curling stone to move forward. You kind of have teammates that are working like that for you. And if one of them has to peel off to engage an opponent so that they can't get at the Rainmaker, they do that. And then the other player just keeps painting for you. And you kind of just keep swimming forward and keep swimming forward. And like I say in one of the How to Get Out of Ranked videos, with the Rainmaker, when I talked about zoning, this is in the A rank video. With Rainmaker, the only zone that really matters is the zone that's immediately in front of the Rainmaker. If you can't stop the Rainmaker from getting into that zone that's in front of it, then the Rainmaker gets to push for free and your team, the opposing team, is scoring. You have to be able to put threat in that very specific spot right in front of where the Rainmaker wants to go. And if the Rainmaker switches directions, then that zone that you have to control changes completely, and you have to completely adjust your defense to account for it. So if there are teammates or members of the enemy team, I should say, that are out of position, that are not in between you and the goal, you don't need to really worry about them, and you can just rush it. But if they're in your way, you need somebody or something to displace them, to get them out of the way, and that's the only time that it's going to be safe for you to advance. So that means you're going to need to have a lot of patience, but when you do have an opportunity to push for lead, that you need to take that opportunity, because seconds lost in Rainmaker are very, very precious. It takes less than a second to go, like, I think 4 points. So leads have been gained and lost by a lot less than that. Part of getting good at Rainmaker is recognizing in your decision making when you can push, when you know that it is pushed, the enemy is pushed away. Because as soon as that happens, you need to react to it instantly and take up more ground and get yourself into the next good position to lodge yourself in before it's time to make the final sprint for lead. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit here because I've lost a little bit of context. Okay. So is this after... Oh no, this is okay. This is the jump punish we talked about. Okay, so I was actually a little bit behind. So I like that you're not approaching this area here, recognizing and respecting their height advantage over you, and so you're taking more of a central position in court where you're also able to watch carousel, so you don't get flanked from there. And they just end up trying to run it that way. Your teammate goes in. So here's another thing about walk and shoot syndrome. This fight happens, there's a big explosion, and like with, you know, any explosion, it's a smoke screen. You don't know where this other player is. If you're aiming here and you're not hitting shots, you have to realize, okay, this player has a short range weapon. They're going to try and rush me if they want to take this fight. And so I need to be backing up to maintain my distance. Otherwise, boom. That's exactly what happens. So part of avoiding walk and shoot syndrome is recognizing that you're missing shots and having this instinct that I'm missing, I need to move. So at this point, I'm surprised they didn't go for steps, because steps is a, well, okay. I'm actually not that surprised because, so the advantage of going steps here is that it's faster. And as soon as you peek around this corner, you're at like 25, which is a really strong push. The disadvantage is that you have to walk across foils, and this area is really exposed here, and you don't have as much cover on your way to the goal. If you sweep around this way, it's easier for you to use this wall and make it harder for them to get shots. So I actually understand them going in this direction for it. But if they hadn't already had a score of 21, they could have gone that way, and that would have been good points for them. Okay. I like that you're not lingering around that wall that you threw for too long, because again, if someone throws a splat bomb off the end of that and you're right in front of it, then you get splatted. So you push up well in front of it instead. That's a good pick. Not really much that they could have done in response. They're not a very fast weapon. Now, continuing to shoot here is a little bit riskier because you've given your position away at this point, and they're starting to move. I do like that you go in only after this player backs up a little, because if you drop over them, now you're in their range. But if you drop down now that they've backed up a bit, you're at max range for them still. Now, you still don't know where this player is, and so this is a little risky, and in fact, they do get here I think. Oh, well, they would have gotten you if you hadn't booyah'd, but now you lose the booyah for the push, and they still get away. So, I even, thinking about it, am not the biggest fan of you dropping down from here, because I don't have information about where this player is on the right. Like, what they could do here is stay in play and come at you and try and pick you from the right-hand side. Now, that might not be the best idea, because if you guys get popped... No, they can definitely go for it, yeah. It's far enough back. So, I think this enemy probably could have actually splatted you if they had rushed you while you were focusing on their teammate. They do almost get you here. And now you're pushed in a really awkward position. If they run off in this direction, you just booyah'd this spot, so I guess you're expecting them to be further back, but it looks like they sharked somewhere. The booyah actually didn't cover that corner. So now you've got your back to the enemy team because you're worried about a flanker. And they just kind of quietly go away, it looks like. Oh no, they go down. Where do they go down? They go down right there. Okay, I didn't even notice. There's still a bomb on you. Okay. So your teammates are able to deal with the flanker, which is good. They get another pick here. right now, you don't have a lot of information about where anybody is. That might be like a map check situation, or maybe you just kind of go with your teammates and paint where it seems like they're trying to move. I don't like that you are painting from the very edge of enemy ink. It would be better if you're standing a little further back and trying to keep max range. You don't have to be like standing at max range from the edge of their ink, but you want to be standing a little bit further back, so if somebody does start to rush you, you can back up and still be kiting them. But from right here, if there's a Luna Blaster right here, they can direct you. This goes back to what Brock was saying about right side peek. If you throw the wall here, you have to left side peek your wall, and they can right side peek your wall. Well, you don't have to left side peek your wall. Sorry. If you put your wall here, though, they can right side peek your wall. And so you either want to be standing directly behind the wall or right side peeking your wall. So you want to put it out a little bit further in this direction. But I can see you're kind of trying to cut them off from having access to the Rainmaker, so that makes some sense. Now, moving over to the right here, you made this move once before earlier in the match where you moved over to the right when the Rainmaker was trying to push left. And this is exactly the kind of play that this allows. You let that player get on top of the Rainmaker here, and they are the ones who get the pick. If you had stayed on the left in front of the Rainmaker, you would see that coming from, earlier and have had a better reaction to it. And you probably could have even been pre-firing it by the time it got into range of you. So you probably stand to actually splat that guy for dropping down. And instead they get a pick, and they're able to establish control of part of their court by popping a baller in it. So now life's a little bit more difficult for making this push.
Brock was saying that cleaning up the map and checking sharking spots is important when you're in the lead and have control of the objective.
Yeah. Because you saw up here, this was mostly painted yellow that they came out of, but it wasn't completely yellow, and that gave them a spot to kind of rush in from. So I would have at least fired a couple of shots up there before I tried to move around and make a play like this. Also, with the Booyah Bomb, I would say the position you're really scared of is the Rainmaker carrier here, is this spot up top. Because you can shoot someone who's in the elbow here. You can't that effectively shoot someone who's up here. It's much harder for you to hit these shots, and you have to get much closer. It's a lot more dangerous. So I would try to clear someone off of here first, and then that will flush them down into your line of fire or into a position where they're irrelevant to the push. The nice thing is you've already got this rail painted your color, so you know that there can't be anybody up on the left here unless they've gotten there earlier. So the bomb rush, yeah, even before the bomb rush goes out, I'm looking at this like, there's nobody in front of the Rainmaker right now. There's nobody to stop them from being like right around the corner here, ready to gun down somebody who grabs it. I don't agree with the teammate who goes and tries to pick it up. Because what this is going to do, you've only got 20 seconds left, right? Here's what this is going to do. This is going to put the Rainmaker out of reach. So it's going to force you to push in just to get to it in the first place. They're going to go down in all likelihood. There's no way that this push actually gets all the way to 20 by itself without, more help in front of it. So that puts your team at a numbers disadvantage. So you're not going to get the pop when the Rainmaker respawns, and you're only going to have so many seconds to get it. So they will respawn and be back before the game ends, but only just barely. So now they get the pop. Now, they shouldn't pop it here. What they should be doing, and the way that they could just end the game right here, right now, is keeping it painted their color, but not popping it. What happens if they pop it is that, number one, it's easier for you guys to grab, because all you have to do is paint a trail through and then go up and get it. You don't have to worry about the explosion. You don't have to worry about getting it popped before you can move in. You can just go and get it. So that makes it easier for you guys to pick up. On top of that, what they do here is very silly in that they pick it up. Picking up the Rainmaker as the winning team in the last 15 seconds is almost always a terrible idea. Here's why. in the last 15 seconds of Rainmaker, if the winning team is splatted with the Rainmaker, it gives the defending team overtime automatically. So the reason that you guys get overtime here is not because you have possession of the Rainmaker, because you guys don't get it popped in time, but because they went down with 15 seconds left on the clock, even though, you know, you have the one teammate who's not even painting the shield right now, you have an overtime. So the player who picked it up was really making a poor decision there. And if, you know, your teammate here, your roller here, who has a very fast splat time, were able to get a nice clutch pick here, you guys actually probably could have stood to do something. Unfortunately, they don't get anyone. I think you're able to get one player, but, you know, if the roller had hit one player and then you got this guy, this is an open Rainmaker now, and you might have actually been able to score with it. But as it stands, you know, you get your aim on that guy. You know that there's one over here. It looks like you're trying to paint the Rainmaker shield instead. I definitely focus on this guy first, because it only takes 2 shots, and then you can go to the Rainmaker shield, and you do have the overtime to work with. So I would definitely focus on aiming at him first, but it's a much harder fight to win at that point. And it's all because of, you know, this play way back here, where your teammate just kind of rushes in and grabs it without paying any heed to the bomb rush that's in front of them, the fact that all of the opponents are up, the fact that they have nobody in front of them. This is just a really poor play on their part. And it makes it a lot harder for you guys to be able to go in and get the lead. Like I said, the game should be over as soon as this player goes down, because the other team should just be keeping the Rainmaker shield blue and preventing you from grabbing it at all. So let's go and look at scoreboard at the end here just for some numbers. All right, so yeah, pretty much even there. There were a couple of times that you had special that you didn't use. So you could probably have thrown a few more Booyah Bombs in this game than you did, and it's just because of a play around an objective, not using the special, or being splatted before you can use it. Things like that were preventing you from having quite as much of a special output. But I also think that Booyah Bomb is a bit more situational in Rainmaker than it is in most other modes, just because Rainmaker is so fast. And it takes so long to charge a Booyah. Anyway, big takeaways, I would say. It's good that you are trying to swim strafe when you take engagements, but remember that one of your big advantages as a weapon is that you have significantly more range than most weapons that have a kill time that fast. So use it, you know. Every single weapon on this comp you could have kited, and a lot of the time you ended up taking engagements from within the enemy team's range when you could have just been respecting their range and walking forward slowly and forcing them back, or forcing them to do something desperate because you have longer range than they do. You can kind of use your walls, but also just use your superior range to make them back up, or make them rush you at a disadvantage instead of putting yourself right on top of them and expecting yourself to, you know, win a DPS war against a Luna Blaster. One other thing is making sure that you're pushing up in the direction that your Rainmaker carrier is instead of going away from them, because your Rainmaker carrier needs you as a bodyguard. They need you to clear the way so that they can move, rather than, you know, it's much less useful for the Rainmaker to have you flanking, because the flank only comes into play to get past one crucial choke point. Whereas if you're in front of them, you're protecting them the entire way forward. So yeah, maybe having one player flank to be able to let your Rainmaker carriers push is fine if there are like 2 Rainmaker bodyguards still. But otherwise, you kind of just want everyone to go in front of the Rainmaker and be holding it down for their sake. And then I'm trying to remember how it was they got lead in the first place, because I think there was an objective miss. Oh right, so the Luna Blaster gets a double here, which goes back to fighting. They get the double here, and then the entire rest of the team. Look, they've got one player in front of the Rainmaker and the Rainmaker itself. You can see, like, the Rainmaker isn't facing this player when this player goes down. So somewhere on the map, and it's really hard to tell exactly where, but somewhere on the map was an enemy team player who was with this guy and who picked off the resistance to the Rainmaker push. And look at how far that lets them get just with the two of them. So,
Mocha's asking in the chat, what do I do when the Rainmaker is too close to me while I try to protect it and enemy approaching me, and I'm forced to kite if I want to win the fight? Because either me or the carrier will go down. Should I just back up?
okay, so you're saying if the Rainmaker is pushing up too fast and you can't push up safely fast enough with it, that's a really tough situation to be in because the Rainmaker carrier is making it impossible for you to defend them. And unfortunately, that's something that you will see at lower levels of X rank. It has gotten to a point in some of my games where I have specifically gone out of my way to pick up the Rainmaker, even though I am not the optimal person to be taking it, for the purpose of preventing another player on my team who has been picking it up and feeding with it from getting control of it. Because that way, that teammate of mine, instead of picking it up and just dying and not getting any points, is going to be pushing up in front of me and trying to play aggressively the way that they were with the Rainmaker. You want someone to push up really aggressively in front of the Rainmaker, but have the Rainmaker not be playing quite as aggressively as they are. And so if you do a role reversal by picking up the Rainmaker and taking it away from them, that can be a way that you address that, but they are just kind of causing problems for the team if they do that. I would say, like, always play correctly for your sake. Like, don't put yourself in dumb, bad positions where you're just going to die and it's not going to result in lead. There are some situations where I say just throw yourself at them because it will stall for long enough that your team can either, let's put yourself in the mindset of like the Rainmaker carrier, right? If I see a teammate running in front of me and just feeding, I'm at least going to put a shot on the guy that's shooting at them, because that's going to be right in front of me. What else do I have to shoot at, right? I'm going to see that the fire is being returned and they're about to go down. I can see it's not safe for them, but at the very least, I might be able to get a shot in and trade back or something. And maybe that gives me the time that I need to push forward. Or maybe it's a distraction and I'm able to actually slip by them or something for lead. So if you're getting close to lead, it can be valuable to just take a scrappy fight and, flip the coin and see if it turns out in your favor. Because sometimes even if you don't win the fight, your team can win off of you distracting the enemy team, off of you skirmishing with them. Or maybe you cause a distraction or cause enough of a ruckus that your team is able to do something with it. So sometimes it can be worth it to just kind of suicide in if you're really close to lead and you might be able to protect your Rainmaker enough to do it. But if they're just kind of feeding, there's only so much you can do. I'm going to go back to being able to see chat really quickly and kind of scroll. Too close to me while I try and protect it. Enemy approach me and I'm forced to kite if I want to win the fight. Either me or the carrier will go down. So like if you get flanked, let's say, what's going to happen in that situation is that the player who's flanking you is going to go after the Rainmaker. Like, it is, if they splat you instead of the Rainmaker, they've messed up because now the Rainmaker can just take a kill shot on them and keep going. Or if they take the fight with you and you're able to prolong it long enough, then the Rainmaker could possibly just swim away and score more points. So either way, anybody who's trying to flank and get in at the Rainmaker while it has guards on it, they're trying to just kamikaze splat the Rainmaker and stop the push. And that is often a good play. Not every single time is that a good play, but most of the time, if you can just get a 1-for-1 trade with the Rainmaker carrier, that's a one trade. That's something that gives your team more of an advantage because it stalls the push, gives your team time to spawn back in. It keeps the numbers even. That's almost always a good play for them. Splatting the guard and letting the Rainmaker survive is often not a good play because that often lets the Rainmaker carrier get out unscathed. So they're going to go for the Rainmaker carrier. They should be going for the Rainmaker carrier. That's not a situation where you need to kite back unless there are like multiple opponents and you're too far in and they've got a really good defense set up. So if it's the case that like you've got a wall of opponents in front of you, then yeah, like don't push in too far and expect that the Rainmaker carrier, stays with you, and don't go up to protect them if they do something silly. But if, because then they'll see my teammates didn't go up with me, I should probably just stay with my teammates here. But if they're just flanking, if they're, out of position otherwise, but they're trying to get at the Rainmaker really quick, you don't have to kite. You can just take the fight. You can just aim at them and splat them before they can do anything about it. Because they're shooting at your teammate. They're not shooting at you. So at that point, you have free reign to just shoot at them. It's my old saying that I keep repeating as much as I'll be able to on airtime, but shoot the guy that's shooting at your teammates. If they're shooting at the Rainmaker, that is the perfect opportunity to be shooting at them because they're not shooting at you. The only time that it could be a problem is if you're so close to the Rainmaker that you're getting like collatted, that they're shooting both of you at the same time. But if you move away from the Rainmaker enough that the angle between the two of you forces them to choose a target, then you should just immediately shoot at that player because they're going to shoot at the Rainmaker. It's probably a free pick for you. Maybe the Rainmaker survives. When it was overtime, do you think the Kensa roller should have waited instead of rushing in to grab the Rainmaker? So when it is overtime, I noticed that sometimes players would rush in to take lead, which causes them to get team wiped. So when it was overtime, nobody actually picks up the Rainmaker in this game during overtime. It stays unpopped in its shield there. So like the roller there, yeah, if they have the opportunity to grab it, they could grab it and walk backwards a little bit and let their teammates jump in or something. But like right now, it's in its shield because nobody's popped it yet. And the reason that it's unpopped, but it's still overtime, is because, as I mentioned earlier, the enemy team picked it up in the last 15 seconds and got splatted before the end of the game. So they didn't have the opportunity to pick it up at the end here. They needed to just take this fight and clear these players away so that they would have the safety and the paint advantage that they needed to pop the shield.
Do you see, Jem,
Mm-hmm.
Debbie's 21-month subscription, 8-month streak?
I do not
pom
see
poms.
that, but thank you so much,
Big
Debbie.
Pom-poms, yeah.
Big pom-poms. Do I have to scroll up further to see that? I don't see it. I don't know why I don't see
You
it.
know? It's like right at the... It's like right above Smidge's message talking about overtime.
Oh! I don't know why I missed that, but thank you so much, Debbie. Really appreciate it. All right. I'm going to scroll up here and see if there were any questions.
I tried getting all of them read out, but my reading skills are not good. Not good. They're not good.
Oh, it call me Quee or cool, I think it is actually, because that's an L and not an I. We were over this last week and I forgot since then. Sorry about that. But Brock.com's information should be in the top 500 video. You should be able to reach out to them from there and be able to contact them that way. So I always assume that people who are watching the stream have come from the YouTube channel. If that's not the case, obviously, we are Bravous Esports on YouTube. We have some more long-form videos on things like what we were talking about. You know, I referenced a couple of times during this VOD review pieces of that video. So Bravous Esports is our YouTube channel. We have some long-form content on how to get out of different levels of ranked. So I talk about, here are the mistakes people make at C rank. Here are the mistakes people make at B rank. Here are the mistakes people make at A rank. And I walk my way all the way up. And all of that is based on an actual, like, smurfing expedition that I did where I started at C rank, recorded videos at C rank, and used those to determine what people are actually doing wrong at C rank. There are a bunch of other more topical videos. For example, I made one most recently about the concept of referring to a player as good at the game and how meaningless and useless that word is and how it shouldn't be something that impacts your philosophy as a player. So I tackle a whole bunch of different topics like that, just random things that I think people struggle to understand by themselves in Splatoon. So there's an advertisement for that. Go check it out if that's something you're interested in. Also, to everybody, just while we're shilling, here's a Discord server. This is the Discord server that you will use if you want to request a VOD review with me. Exactly the way that SunshineMocha and every other VOD reviewee has done this is to go into that Discord server, find me, I'm Gem in that Discord server, GEM, and DMing me over Discord that you want a VOD review. And we talk about all the details from there, get you scheduled, all that stuff. Just find me there, and that's where you'll be able to request a VOD review like this one. I don't think we have anyone set up for next week, so anybody who would like, just hit me up for one, and we'd be happy to get you on the show.
Yeah.
Skip from S to S+9. That was probably the biggest WoW moment I've ever had. I was pretty surprised about it too, not gonna lie, but that was a really good Splat Zones run that I had. Could never have made it to X if it wasn't for the Out of S Plus video. I appreciate that, SunshineMocha. I'm really happy to hear that it's helpful to people, no matter how many times I do hear it. And then you get to chill with us in Splatoon Talk. Yeah, Devi is also very active in that server. There are a bunch of people who are, constantly talking about Splatoon stuff. So it's not like you're just joining it for the sake of getting into the VOD review. Like, there are definitely some resources there for you as well. You have access to some players who have competitive experience and will be able to point you in the right direction of anything you need to know. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Smidge says, "Don't worry, Avery, I can't read either." I mean, I'm the one who wasn't reading just now. I missed the sub earlier.
I have the advantage of blaming it on my dyslexia, so.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, I'm an English teacher. I know all about that one. Alrighty. So we have, because I did a silly and I think I accidentally started it an hour earlier than I announced I was going to. So I'm on a different time zone from most of Bravous. Like, they're headquartered in Arizona, but I'm on Central Time instead. And so I started it at 1:30 because I'm like, yeah, it starts at 1:30 Arizona time. And that was a whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. That's on me.
I finished eating lunch and I was like, okay, well, I got a little bit of time, and then you're like, stream starts now. Well,
I was really I was like, why aren't people responding on Discord, huh?
Well, we're here now, so it's all
good. Yeah. So the nice thing about that, the less nice thing about that is that my capture card is frozen. So that's something I'll have to fix really quick. But nice thing about that is that we get a little bit of recess. Let's get a there, I think it's dropping it a little bit. There, that looks a little smoother. Let's see if that looks better. Nope. Well, this makes me deeply sad. Let's try one more time. It's not that frames are dropping, it's just that the capture card itself is stuttering a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of skipping.
I think that does sometimes happen, I think, because of the sound card crashing. So I'm going to disconnect the capture card for a second and put it back together. Okay. Okay. Okay, it stuttered a little bit on being refreshed there, but good? No, we're still not good. Well, I'll get the PB up for the time being. No password here. I'm going to put my friend code in the chat just in case there's anybody new who hasn't gotten it already. And gotta go help. Okay. I'll see you soon, Doovie. Middle of class when you got the notif. Oh man. Yeah, probably like right in the middle of like work or school for some people. I'm picking up Tetras. Do you have any tips for the weapon? I used to play Tetras, but that was a really long time ago to where I would not say I am an expert at the level that I want to be at with it to make a lot of recommendations. But obviously you need to work on your aim. Remember that the big advantage of Tetras is that even while they are rolling, they are still shooting. Let me switch scenes really quickly and see if I can get that all refreshed here.
Say this name. Sabajari? Kavadri? Welcome? I'm probably butchering that name. Sabajari Kabajari.
Okay.
Welcome, though.
I think it's looking a little bit smoother. Nope, it's still cutting out. That's really annoying, and I need to figure out why that's going wrong. But for the time being, we're not going to worry too much about it. With Tetras, it plays differently from like almost every other weapon in the game. In that it's just got such a unique movement advantage that it can kind of do things that other weapons can't. Here's Mocha. Hopefully I have enough room on the friends list here. Make sure that like while you're rolling, you are still hitting shots, because even in the middle of a roll, you are still able to get a couple of shots out. So that's a weapon where you really need to have your aim tracking on point. You can't just like with most dualies, you can roll, and during the time that you're rolling, you can focus on getting your aim on and really have it set. But with Tetras, you need to already have it on and keep it on throughout the roll. A little bit more technical that way. Also, with any dualies, remember that rolling is a commitment, and so you want to make sure you don't get yourself caught out by running out of rolls in the middle of a firefight. You need to have ended the fight before then, either by disengaging or by finishing the fight by splatting the opponent. Savagery, Kavadgery. That's correct as I've ever pronounced it. There it is. My chat broke after the code was posted. Can you post again? I already got you in, Mocha, didn't I? I think you should be good.
Yeah, I sent it again. So they should have added you.
All right. Well, we've got even teams at the very least at the moment, so why don't we play some Wahoo Rainmaker? It's topical, you know?
Wahoo!
Okay. Lumo Stan? I see.
Jamie has just redeemed
In-depth
1,000
discussion
points.
about Of Mice and Men. So it has been a very long time since I've read that. I have read it, but not recently. So I don't remember too much about it. I would have to revisit it a little bit more, unfortunately. It is a good example of a foil character. So I guess we can talk about that particular literary trope. Wahoo Rainmaker, what I'll play this. So a foil character being where you, since you are the narrator, since you are the god of that universe, as the author, you create two characters that contrast each other, that are different, and it shows off the differences between the two. So, for example, if you want one character to look really tall, you put a short character next to them for contrast. And they actually do that in Of Mice and Men. The one character is significantly smaller and, less physically strong, but also smarter, and is able to navigate social situations much, much better. And so because of that, it kind of shows off what the very large, innocent, naive, childish character, it shows off what they are lacking in what the other character has, and draws the reader's attention more readily to that. About all I can add without really... oh, shoot, they went up at the top. That's all I can add without having read much of it recently. I can give a lecture on something like Animal Farm pretty readily, just off the top of my head. Waiting for Godot, I definitely have some things to say about Hamlet, Macbeth. So that right there was an example of, like, flanking the Rainmaker. And you can see in that position there, their teammate was able to just shoot me because I was shooting at the Rainmaker instead of at the teammate. So hopefully that answers Mocha's question from earlier in video form. So right now, I'm just trying to paint up because we don't really have much of an advantage to work with. They're going to pop missiles here, so I'm just going to back up and let the missiles fall harmlessly. Then I'm going to pop missiles myself, and now I'm going to approach because now we have vision on everybody because of the missiles. I know that there's one player behind this, but I don't know exactly where they've backed up to, so I'm worried about sharks, and you can see I'm kind of painting my way forward, but I'm keeping far enough back from the purple paint here that if somebody were to push me, I would see them coming and have time to back away. Oh, someone got in from behind. Otherwise, that would have been great. Oh. Is that Heka? That might be Heka. Lumo Stan TM. I love it. We standing our people that we stand. Yeah. That
the
checks.
stands.
That checks out. These missiles are a little bit early. They may give information, but what they're not doing is forcing us out of positions before, we're able to do anything about the Rainmaker. If the Rainmaker were a little closer to us at that point, then it would have really pushed us away and the Rainmaker would have been able to push forward, but because they came out early, they didn't have a lot of impact. Let's go north. Yeah. I definitely took a really bad fight against the Rainmaker there, so I'm glad North was there to stop it in its tracks. That's a silly sprinkler right there if I've ever seen one. Oops. I strafed in the wrong direction there. Okay, so they're going to be able to get pop here.
Oh.
Unfortunately, we lost another one to pop here, so now we're waiting for teammates to return. Hopefully North doesn't commit overly quickly. And we are able to get in there and cut them off. We get Mocha. There is someone behind it with a sprinkler, which is going to make it a little bit harder to paint this, but we're able to get it with 2 players. So right now I'm going to try and, oh, got a little bit too close. I was trying to use height advantage to make it safer for me to paint forward and, cut off their escape route, but as you can see, got too close to the ledge, and Jamie was there to punish me for it.
Oh, couldn't get away.
So that bomb I just threw means that they waste half of their armor just backing up to avoid being splatted by it, or getting hit by it, I should say. They wouldn't be splatted right away. Ooh. The missiles there were spread out a little bit more than I think they had to be. Oh, I made myself too visible with that bomb. That first bomb didn't really do enough for it to be worth throwing, because it revealed my position, so Jamie was able to splat me before I was able to move in.
How did I trade with you, Jamie?
Shoot, we don't have anyone pushed up with this, but I might be able to get... Whew. All right, on this ouch, on this ouch. Good roll, nice. That should be game. Now we don't want to pop this. We just want to keep it painted our color.
Oh.
Looks like we did end up popping it, but I think we still keep them from getting to it in time anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of Mice and Men, spoilers, not a happy ending. Get ready to cry if you get invested in those characters. Animal Farm, now that may be correct. Yeah, see, Animal Farm, real gem, okay. Yeah, sure. Right, correct. No falsehoods here. Animal Farm, it's set on multiple levels because, like, not only is it about these animals, these cute animals that you've gotten to know and love, and now, you know, they're getting their throats ripped out by evil dogs that were once their friends, you know, like, there's a bunch of bad stuff that's happening even just if you invest in those characters as animals. But then if you think about, like, wait, no, this is actually about the Russian people. This is about entire groups of humans that were that had the same things happen to them. Like, ugh, that book hits pretty hard. This might. So on the last stream, I deleted someone with a Twilight Princess Ganondorf profile picture because I didn't recognize their name. They ended up being my teammate on my competitive team. And that might be them. I don't know. They make up names. And so I can't get rid of this person. But yeah, the Animal Farm, it scares me in that I feel like Orwell had a really good perspective to understand socialism from, because it wasn't just that, like, he was a socialist, someone who believed in it. He was someone who got to experience it. Like, he fought in the Spanish Civil War and saw how that played out, and he was kind of contemporary to many of the things that were happening in the, like, World War I and World War II time frame. So he just kind of, like, was a wise person who saw what was going on in the world and understood the power structures at play. And some of the predictions that he has for the future are not super bright. Like,
Yeah, be like that.
Like, there's a lot more of 1984 that is at work in the world as it currently exists than a lot of us care to admit.
That is for sure.
All right, so
I've
got a
Jim,
4v4 here.
You are still streaming on Discord.
Okay. I can
So
get rid of that, and that might help with the framing.
Maybe.
We can hope. It does look a lot smoother now. Yeah, maybe that was part of it. Okay, we just got a question. I'm going to get this started here, and then I'll go and read the question. Do you think Animal... Okay, first chat. Do you think Animal Farm is an attack on the bourgeoisie or the concept of a revolution itself? George Orwell was a socialist, but he has a very nuanced perspective on what happened in the Russian Revolution. His stance is that the ideas that they were initially fighting for were just, and that if they had managed to actually continue the society that they won from the Tsar, that they actually would have been very successful. But what he accuses in Animal Farm, through Animal Farm, of being at fault for the way that things turned out badly is, one, obviously the greed of the dictator, the leadership turning on itself, and the evil side of it winning. And two, the common people not being sufficiently educated on how things were supposed to work, so that when control was slowly and subtly being taken away from them, they didn't immediately fight back. They still saw, Stalin, Napoleon as their ally, because he had been instrumental in overthrowing the Tsar and his supporters. And they failed to recognize a tyrant taking the place of the other tyrant. So he kind of blames it on a lack of education. He thinks that it takes a very educated populace to be able to make such a society work. And that's an interesting perspective, which I think, unfortunately, that makes it rather hypothetical for when socialism could work, because I still don't think we have a society that's sufficiently educated that they would all be civically active enough for such a solution to really be uncorruptible. He himself got to witness how the Spanish Civil War got twisted by the Soviets and turned into something that really just installed another dictator. Because the Spanish Civil War is a really ugly period in history that it's frustrating we don't get taught enough about. Like, it usually just gets a mention in the history textbooks, but as one of the only kind of case studies we have about socialism and its impact on its societies, I feel like it's something that's important enough that it should be taught more extensively. Revolutions are inherently good. I would not say that that's something you can defend using Animal Farm, that revolutions are inherently good. Revolutions against evil are inherently good. And there is a very good argument that the feudal society that Russia was had more evil in it than what they were fighting for. But the devil's in the details. You've got to replace it with an alternative that is good and not evil. And that only succeeded very briefly, according to Orwell, in the Russian Revolution. And I think there's also an argument to be made that Orwell is too complimentary of people like Lenin. Like, Lenin saw terror, like government-instituted terror, as a valid political tool. Like, just raising people's crops and killing them with the military, like moving in on their home turf. He saw that as a necessary evil, which is a bit of a chilling thing for a government to believe. I definitely shouldn't have been pushed in there. The democracy should be decentralized. The idea was actually for the Soviet Union. Like, what that phrase means is a union of Soviets. It's almost United States. That is almost exactly what Soviet Union basically translates to. It was a very small group of communities that democratically elected the people who represented them. And what inevitably happened there was that the larger Soviets kind of gained more power and influence because they just had more people and more resources, and they were able to have an outsized voice in the way the country was governed. And those overpowered Soviets ended up becoming the source of the dictatorship. There were no checks and balances to prevent them from having more of an influence on the rest of the country. So, and there's a lot more to that, and I'm sure an actual Russian historian would be in here correcting me on little details here and there, but this is kind of what I'm taking away from the research that I did to teach that novel. Anyway, we've got to get going because we have an event that's going to be starting in 25 minutes, and we'll need to be resetting for that. On this stream, so Bravous Esports 1 here, it's actually going to be an hour and a half from now at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and whatever else that is. So, 3 Pacific? Yeah. At that time, there will be an Overwatch tournament on this particular channel. But where I will be next is on a Smash tournament that's going to be taking place on Bravous Esports 2. So take this exact URL, this exact Twitch URL, put a 2 at the end of it, and that's where we'll be with Wayne State Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So that's where I will be in about 25 minutes or so to cast that event. So that should be a good time. Hope to see maybe some of you there, but in the meantime, that's all the time I have to talk about 1900s Russian history and Splatoon as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate having you guys here, and hope to see you next week. Remember, I don't think there is anybody on the schedule for future weeks, so if you want a VOD review like SunshineMocha was gracious enough to let us show on stream today, all you got to do is go into our Discord server, which is right here, and send me a DM saying that you want a VOD review. So I'm double checking to make sure that is true. I am Gem, yes, GEM. And yes, that was the last one on the schedule. So anyone who wants one, just hit me up. Also, thank you very much to Brock.com. Brock has collaborated with us before on the Top 500 video, so you can see a lot of his input there, but he is an expert on particularly short-range engagements and how to take them. So it was especially lucky that we got to have him on stream today to talk about that particular topic. There's a lot of insight that he has on that I value still, and that I still stand to learn a lot from. And so I highly recommend talking to him if you've got any questions. He's been very happy anytime I've reached out to give me feedback, and he's done full-length VOD reviews for my team before, so really appreciate all of the effort that he's willing to put into the community to help it grow. So big shout-outs to him. Sorry, I was in a match, LOL. What happened? Well, you don't get to hear all the nice things I said about you twice. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. That's going to be it for our stream today. We'll hope to catch you later on for either Overwatch on this channel or Wayne State Smash on Bravous Esports 2. Also, tomorrow will be Warzone Wednesdays on this channel, so you'll get to see Rosebud and Andy once more playing some Warzone and having a good time. So, hope to see you all later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.